You ever look someone in the eyes and realize they know something you don't? That quiet confidence, that presence that doesn't scream, it commands. That's not luck. That's not natural talent. That's a trained mind. And most people walk through life never realizing they could become that person. They think strength is physical. They think success is strategy. But real power, real unstoppable force, starts here, in your mind. And most of you have let it run wild, untrained, undisciplined, fragile under pressure. I've seen people break with just one word, one rejection, one failure. And I've seen others take hit after hit and keep walking forward like nothing touched them. What's the difference? It's not what they have. It's how they think. The person who refuses to be stopped has trained their mind to work for them, not against them. They don't wait for motivation. They create it. They don't ask for permission. They give themselves the green light every single day. And if you're still sitting there telling yourself you're stuck, let me blunt. It's not your circumstances. It's not your past. It's not even the people around you. It's your mindset. And the good news, that's the one thing fully within your control. But you need to stop babying it. Stop feeding it weakness. You don't negotiate with doubt. You don't comfort your fear. You confront it. You call it out. You rewire how you respond when life pushes you. Because life will push. And the untrained mind collapses. The trained one, it levels up. You train your mind the same way you train your body. Daily, deliberately, painfully. You push it to think differently when things go wrong. You force it to choose resilience over reaction. Most people live in default mode. They wake up, think the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, and wonder why nothing changes. You want a different life. Think different. Choose different. Every moment, your mind is building patterns. Most people reinforce weakness because it's comfortable. But champions, they break comfort. They sit in discomfort. They run toward resistance. You ever wonder why two people can go through the same struggle? Same setback, same rejection, and one falls apart while the other rises stronger? It's not luck. It's not because one had more resources or support. It's because one of them understood something the other didn't. In your mind is the real battlefield. Everything you fight for, everything you chase, every obstacle you face, it's all won or lost in the silence of your own thoughts. That's where the real war is. And most people are walking around completely unaware they've already surrendered. They've let doubt run their mind. They've let fear make their decisions. They've handed over the keys to their potential without even realizing it. People think failure is external. It's not. It starts internally. It starts the moment you tell yourself, I can't, I'm not ready. What if I fail? That's the moment the collapse begins, because once the mind quits, the body follows. The effort stops, the fire dims, and what could have been never even gets a chance to become. That's why the mind has to be trained like a weapon. Because everything around you, life, people, pain, they're going to test you. And if your mind isn't fortified, you will fold under pressure. You'll hesitate. You'll second guess. You'll sabotage your own progress because the battlefield was already lost in your head. But here's the power in that truthing: if the battle starts in the mind, then victory does too. Which means you have the power to reframe, to rewire, to resist the urge to give in. You can condition your thoughts just like you condition your body. You can decide what voice dominates, fear or strength. But you have to be willing to fight there first, in the quiet moments, before the world even sees what you're made of. Because once you've won that internal war, nothing outside of you has the power to break you. That's the moment you stop being reactive. That's the moment you take control. And that's where the unstoppable version of you begins. Most people look at those who are mentally unshakable and think, they were just born that way. No, they weren't. That mindset, that grit, that comes from doing the hard work when no one is watching. Mental strength is not a birthright. It's a skill. And skills are built through repetition, through grind, through choosing to get back up, again and again, when everything in you wants to stay down. You don't wake up one day with resilience. You earn it, moment by moment, decision by decision, in the middle of your mess, not when everything's easy. It's the people who have been through hell and still showed up that know the true thing. Mental toughness is forged in discomfort. You want to be someone who can't be shaken. Then you have to stop waiting for your situation to change and start building the kind of mind that can thrive no matter the situation. You have to train that inner voice to stop panicking, stop complaining, stop folding every time pressure hits. The strongest minds are built by the people who got tired of being controlled by their emotions, who got tired of breaking every time life pushed them. And here's what separates the few from the many. Most people stop the moment it gets uncomfortable. They run from the resistance. But the few, the unstoppable ones, they lean into it. They see pain and pressure as tools, not threats. They let those moments sharpen them. And over time, all those micro decisions not to quit, not to run, not to believe the lies, those moments stack. That's how you build mental strength. That's how you become someone people can't shake. Not with words, but with proof. The kind that's built in silence, in struggle, and in total commitment to never being owned by weakness again. Everyone loves to talk about motivation, those fleeting bursts of energy that make you feel invincible for 5 minutes until reality punches back. But let me tell you something most people don't want to hear: motivation is weak. It's unreliable. It disappears the moment things get uncomfortable. You can't count on it. But you know what never fails you? Discipline. Discipline is what steps up when motivation taps out. Discipline is what gets you up when you're tired, when you're drained, when you're doubting everything. But you still show up, because you said you would. A powerful mindset is not built on feelings, it's built on decisions. And discipline is the decision to act, regardless of how you feel. It's doing what needs to be done, especially when you don't want to. That's the difference between people who wish for strength and people who live it. The disciplined don't wait for the right moment. They create it. They build momentum by refusing to negotiate with excuses. They don't argue with their goals. They don't explain why they're tired. They don't reason their way out of doing what they promised themselves they'd do. And this is where most people fail. They rely on motivation like it's a savior, and then blame their lack of progress on not being in the mood. That mindset will destroy you. Because success doesn't care about your mood. The world doesn't wait for you to feel ready. So you have two options: keep depending on your emotions, or master the discipline of doing it anyway. Because once you stop making decisions based on comfort and start making them based on commitment, your mind transforms. You become solid, unshakable. You stop flinching under pressure. You become the kind of person who doesn't need to be told twice. And that internal discipline, is what makes you unstoppable. The most dangerous thing you will ever hand over is the story you tell yourself. Because your mind, it listens. And it doesn't care if the story is true or false. It believes what you repeat. So if you keep feeding it doubt, if you keep reinforcing your fears, if every time something hard comes up your first instinct is, "I can't handle this," guess what? You just programmed your mind to break under pressure. You told it to fold. You gave it permission to quit. And that's what it will do. Because your mind takes orders, not suggestions. People talk about self-sabotage like it's some mystery, but it's not. It's just the result of you repeating a weak story so many times that it becomes your truth. And every time you say, "I'm not good enough," or "this always happens to me," you're cementing that identity. You are literally writing the script of your own limitations and then acting surprised when life plays it back to you. That's not fate. That's programming. And you're the one behind the wheel. But here's the shift. The moment you realize you're the narrator, you can rewrite the story. You can reframe how you see the pain, the failure, the rejection. You can choose power over pity, responsibility over blame. You don't deny reality. You redefine it. You don't ignore the hard. You look it straight in the eye and decide what it means to you. Because if you don't define it, your fear will. And fear has one mission: keep you small. That's why you must take control of what you feed your mind. You want to build strength, then speak strength. Feed your brain words that align with where you're going, not where you've been. Speak like someone who's in charge of their outcome. Because once your mind starts to believe you, your life starts to follow. And that's not magic. That's mastery. That's what it means to train the mind to work for you, not against you. You need to understand something most people never figure out in their entire lifetime. Your emotions do not lead your life. Your thoughts do. Emotions don't just show up out of nowhere. They are born from what you think, what you focus on, what you choose to replay over and over again in your head. And yet most people live like emotions are these random waves that crash through them, out of their control, and so they live reactive, uncentered, and stuck in a cycle of fear, anxiety, and self-doubt. That's not how strong minds operate. That's not how leaders live. And that's not how you become unstoppable. When you wake up in the morning and instantly feel overwhelmed, that's not because life suddenly got harder. It's because your mind started the day with the wrong script. You opened your eyes and fed it fear. You let it wander into what-if scenarios and worst-case outcomes. And what happens next? You feel paralyzed. You feel like you're drowning before you've even left the bed. But if you had trained your mind to take control of the input, you'd be leading your emotions, not being led by them. See, a trained mind doesn't wait to feel good, to take action. It decides what kind of energy it wants, and it generates that. Because your brain is listening. It's watching what you prioritize, and when you consistently choose focus over chaos, purpose over panic, clarity over confusion, it adapts. You begin to teach your brain to regulate your emotional responses. You shift from reaction to command, and that right there, that's the pivot point between living by fear and living by design. Most people will never unlock their full potential because they are slaves to how they feel. They don't feel motivated, so they quit. They feel intimidated, so they don't even try. They feel hurt, so they build walls instead of wisdom. You think that's strength. That's comfort masquerading as protection, and it will kill every ounce of greatness inside you if you let it. Because if emotions rule you, they will ruin you. One bad day becomes a bad week. One setback becomes a lifestyle, and all because they never stop to challenge the thought that caused the emotion in the first place. You don't get mentally strong by suppressing your emotions. You get strong by owning them, by recognizing the emotion, tracing it back to the thought, and then asking the hard question, is this thought serving me or sabotaging me? That's where emotional control is born. Not in pretending to be bulletproof, but in knowing when to call BS on your own inner dialogue. The truth is, you've been lied to by your own mind more times than anyone else ever has. That voice that says you're not ready, that you're not enough, that you should just wait. It's not protecting you, it's limiting you. You want to feel confident. Start thinking like someone who is. You want to feel calm under pressure. Train your mind to focus on what you can control, not what you can't. And don't tell me it's not that simple. It is that simple. What's not simple is doing it consistently. That's where most people fail. They try it for one day, maybe two, and when the emotion doesn't change right away, they go right back to their old patterns, and then they wonder why nothing shifts. You cannot build mental strength on emotional impulsiveness. You build it on mental discipline. Every time you let a negative emotion run the show without checking the thought behind it, you reinforce powerlessness. But every time you pause, step back, and examine the trigger, you weaken its grip. You stop being owned by it. You start leading yourself. That is what creates resilience, not numbing the emotion, but refusing to be ruled by it. You want to be fearless. Then train your thoughts to stop giving fear a seat at the table. You want peace. Then stop handing over your mental real estate to every fear, failure, and what if that walks in the door. This is where your edge is, not in your looks, not in your background, not in your education, in your thought hygiene, what you allow your brain to ruminate on, what you choose to feed it, because your emotions are just the output. The real power, it's in the input. What are you listening to? What are you repeating? What are you watching, consuming, telling yourself every single day? You can't fill your brain with chaos and expect calm. You can't flood it with doubt and expect confidence to show up. That's not how it works. Your brain is a machine. It's efficient. It's always learning, always adapting. If you constantly think in terms of worst-case scenarios, it will start preparing for disaster. Even when everything is fine. That's why anxious people feel overwhelmed by things that haven't even happened yet. Their brain is simply responding to the input. You want to fix that. Fix the input. Start priming your mind in the morning with purpose, not panic. Direct your thoughts instead of letting them direct you. And when the negative ones come in, and they will, you don't argue with them. You override them, immediately. And here's the thing no one tells you, the ability to shift your thoughts on command is a muscle. And just like any muscle, it needs to be trained. Reps. Reps. You catch yourself spiraling, and instead of riding the wave, you cut it off. You flip it. You force your mind to focus on solution, on progress, on purpose. You do that enough times, it becomes automatic. And that's when the game changes. That's when you walk into chaos and stay calm. That's when people start asking how you're so composed under pressure. And it's not because the pressure isn't real. It's because your mind is more powerful than your environment. That's how leaders are made. That's how warriors think. They don't let their emotions drive the mission. They use their thoughts to command the energy they need to push forward. Focused, calm, locked in. You want to be unstoppable, then your emotions can't be your compass. Your thoughts must lead. You must train your mind to tell your body, we're doing this anyway. Even when everything in you wants to shut down. You don't feel like showing up. Think like someone who already did. You're scared. Think like someone who's already been through it. Your body listens to the tone of your thoughts. You lead from the inside out. You decide what energy walks into the room with you. Because you're not just reacting to life, you're creating it. One decision, one thought, one emotion at a time. So when your world feels heavy, when the pressure's on, when everything in you says, slow down, give up, step back, you listen to the trained part of your mind, the part that's been built for this, the part that's prepared, the part that's clear enough to say, we're not done yet. That's when emotions become fuel, not the fire that burns you down, but the one that drives you forward. And the best part, you don't need to wait for some life-changing moment to start. You start right now. You start by noticing your next thought. You start by asking, is this helping me or hurting me? And if it's hurting you, you don't indulge it. You don't analyze it. You don't make friends with it. You replace it. Relentlessly. Because when your mind is trained, your emotions follow. And when your emotions follow your mission, instead of sabotaging it, that's when you become unstoppable. Not just sometimes, not just when it's easy, but every single time it counts. Everyone wants strength. Everyone wants confidence. Everyone wants to be powerful until they meet discomfort. And that's where most people tap out. Because the truth is, we live in a world that's trained us to chase comfort like it's the reward. But let me tell you something that will change everything if you're brave enough to accept comfort is the enemy of growth. It doesn't build you. It breaks you slowly, quietly, while making you believe you're safe. But what you're really doing in comfort is standing still. And if you're standing still, you are falling behind. Discomfort is not punishment. It's a signal. It's your mind telling you, hey, you've never been here before. Pay attention. This is where you level up. But instead of listening, we retreat. We tell ourselves, maybe it's not the right time, or maybe I'm not ready yet. So we back down, we shrink, and we stay stuck. But nothing powerful is ever built in the land of easy. Strength is not something you're handed. It's something you earn by walking directly into the hard things most people avoid. That resistance you feel. That's your training ground. That's where all the magic happens. You want to be mentally strong. Then get comfortable being uncomfortable. You want to lead, influence, rise. Then stop looking for shortcuts. Stop choosing what feels good in the moment and start choosing what sharpens you in the long run. Because comfort will lull you into complacency. It will make you believe you're fine when deep down you know you're playing small. And playing small doesn't protect you. It suffocates you. You don't become exceptional by avoiding hard things. You become exceptional by facing them. Repeatedly, you let them shape you, and yeah, it's painful. Growth is painful. But do you know what's more painful? Staying the same. Staying stuck in a version of yourself that doesn't reflect who you could be. Just because the process of evolving is uncomfortable. That's the slow death. That's the regret you feel years later when you realize you traded your potential for convenience. Every time you choose comfort, you weaken your threshold. You lower your capacity. But every time you lean into discomfort, you expand. You push your mental limits. And that becomes your new normal. Suddenly, what used to feel impossible just feels like Tuesday. That's how resilience is built. Not in theory, but in practice. Reps in the fire. reps in uncertainty, reps when you don't know how it's going to turn out, but you show up anyway. Comfort tells you to wait until it's perfect. Discomfort tells you to start now and figure it out on the way. And that voice that wants you to delay, to play it safe, that's fear wearing a disguise. That's your old programming trying to keep you manageable, predictable, and quiet. But you weren't built for manageable. You weren't designed to stay quiet. You were built to lead, built to rise. But none of that happens if you keep choosing ease over evolution. So when you feel discomfort, lean in, don't run, don't numb it, don't tell yourself it's a sign to stop. It's a sign to go, to level up, to pay attention, because that resistance you feel right before the breakthrough, that's your edge. And the only way to cross it is to train yourself to walk straight through the discomfort and come out stronger on the other side. That's where real power lives. That's where the unstoppable version of you is waiting. Everyone wants momentum. Everyone talks about progress, change, growth. But very few people are willing to do the one thing that actually creates be consistent day. Not for a day, not until it gets hard, but relentlessly. Day in, day out, without applause, without validation, without someone cheering you on. You want to know what separates people who say they want to change from the ones who actually change. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's not timing. It's consistency. The discipline to show up again and again, especially when it's boring, when it's thankless, when it's silent. You don't build strength in a moment. You build it in the repetition of the moment. Every time you keep your word to yourself, you add weight to your confidence. Every time you follow through, even when your mind says, skip it, you cast a vote for the version of you that doesn't fold. That's what momentum is. It's not one grand decision. It's 100 quiet ones. It's what you do in the dark when no one's watching. It's the habits you build when the spotlight's off and the world isn't clapping for you. And most people quit before they ever see results because they don't understand the value of those small, daily victories. Let me tell you something. Consistency is the muscle that sustains every other part of your strength. You can have fire, you can have intensity, but if you don't have consistency, you'll burn out before you break through. You'll start with energy, but finish with excuses. That's what happens when people rely on bursts of motivation instead of building the discipline to show up regardless. The ones who succeed aren't the ones who start the fastest. They're the ones who don't stop. And here's the truth: consistency is hard. It's not sexy. It doesn't feel rewarding at first. You'll question yourself. You'll feel like it's not working. But you keep going anyway. Because you understand something most people don't do. Real results come after the repetition. They come after the 100th rep, not the first. They show up after you've proven to yourself that you can be trusted, that you're solid, that you do what you say, not just when it's convenient, but when it's inconvenient. That's when the world starts to move differently around you. That's when people stop doubting you. And more importantly, you stop doubting you. Your confidence is not built in words, it's built in execution. And the more consistent you are, the more unshakable you become. You stop hesitating, you stop looking for signs. You become the sign. You don't ask, can I do this? You already know. Because you've shown up so many times before that you no longer need convincing. That's the power of consistency. It becomes your identity. It turns effort into evidence. It transforms actions into belief. You don't just hope you can do hard things. You know you can because you've done them every single day, even when it was inconvenient, uncomfortable, or unclear. And that consistency, that's what creates unstoppable momentum. Not a big win, not a motivational quote, not a perfect plan, just a clear decision, followed by relentless execution, no matter what. Everything you are right now is a reflection of what you've practiced. Consciously or unconsciously. You don't just wake up one day and become powerful. You don't suddenly become confident, calm, focused, or fearless. You become what you rehearse. Every single day, you are training your brain. The question is, are you training it to make you stronger, or are you training it to make you weaker? Most people don't even realize they're practicing hesitation, practicing avoidance, practicing insecurity. Every time you talk yourself out of speaking up, out of stepping forward, out of going after what you want, you're reinforcing a pattern, and that pattern becomes identity. Your brain is like a computer. It runs whatever program you install. You repeat it enough times, it becomes automatic. So if you're constantly rehearsing fear, second-guessing excuses, that becomes your baseline. That becomes your operating system. And then people wonder why they can't change. Why they keep falling into the same behaviors, the same reactions. It's not mystery. It's muscle memory. Your mind is doing exactly what you've trained it to do. You've practiced thinking small. You've practiced overthinking. You've rehearsed failure so often that now you expect it before you even begin. But here's the power in that truth. If you've practiced weakness, you can practice strength. If you've rehearsed chaos, you can rehearse composure. You can retrain your mind to default to discipline, to default to presence, to default to power. That's the shift, from unconscious patterns to intentional ones, from automatic fear to automatic focus. But you've got to be deliberate. You don't get a sharp mind by hoping for it. You get it by programming it. On purpose, with repetition. This is why elite performers, warriors, leaders, they don't just visualize success for fun. They rehearse it. They see it, feel it, train for it, so that when the pressure hits, they don't panic. They execute. Because they've already been there in their mind. The battlefield isn't new to them. The challenge isn't foreign. Because they've walked through it hundreds of times in their head before they ever had to do it in real life. That's not imagination. That's mental training. That's preparation on a level most people will never understand. You want to be someone who thrives under pressure. Then start rehearsing what it looks like to stay calm. Practice staying present when everything wants to pull you into chaos. Practice stepping forward when fear shows up. Practice the response you want to have, until it becomes your reflex. That's what people miss. They wait until life throws them into the fire, and then hope they'll know what to do. But the mentally strong, they've already trained for the fire. So when it comes, they don't flinch. They perform. The strongest minds aren't reactive. They're rehearsed. Every day is a rep. Every choice is a rep. Every thought you correct. Every time you catch yourself spiraling and redirect that energy, you're doing reps. That's how strength is built. Not in theory. Not in the heat of the moment. But in the practice. In the preparation. In the hours when no one is clapping for you, but you're still sharpening your edge. And here's the thing. If you don't take control of what you're rehearsing, life will do it for you. You'll keep repeating what you don't want. You'll stay stuck in a mental loop that you never chose. And if you're not careful, you'll wake up 5 years from now wondering why you're still in the same place, with the same thoughts, the same limitations, and the same fears. Not because you couldn't change, but because you never practiced changing. So ask yourself, what am I rehearsing right now? What mental habits am I reinforcing? And are those habits leading me where I want to go, or keeping me exactly where I am? Because every thought you allow, every behavior you repeat, every response you let slide without correction, those are your mental reps. And those reps, they become who you are. So if you want to become someone who doesn't break, who doesn't hesitate, who doesn't back down, then start practicing that person. Every single day. Until that version of you is no longer something you try to be. It's just who you are. There's this illusion people carry around, that strength means nothing gets to you. That being mentally tough means you're never afraid, never shaken, never tired. But that's not strength. That's denial. Real mental toughness means you get hit, you feel it, and you still don't fold. It means you walk through the storm fully aware of how hard it is. But you keep your head up anyway. It means pressure doesn't paralyze you, it sharpens you. And that ability, that grit, it doesn't show up in the easy moments. It reveals itself when everything starts to fall apart and you choose to hold the line anyway. Everyone's solid when life is smooth. Everyone's confident when the plan works. But when that plan shatters, when the pressure turns up, when the hits come faster than you can catch your breath, that's when you find out who you really are. That's when you separate the trained from the fragile, because a fragile mind only knows how to operate in comfort. A trained mind knows how to adapt. A trained mind stays composed. It doesn't need everything to be perfect to move forward. It just needs a reason. And when your reason is strong enough, you don't need guarantees. You just decide. You don't get through life untouched. You're going to get knocked down. You're going to be rejected, doubted, overlooked, underestimated. People will misunderstand you. You will fail, and every single time, your mind is going to ask you one thing: are we stopping here? And what you say next determines everything. The people who fold, they believe that moment defines them. The people who rise, they know it refines them. They don't make the failure personal. They make it useful. You don't build a mind that doesn't break by avoiding pressure. You build it by being under pressure and learning how to breathe, think, and act through it. You learn how to sit with the discomfort, the fear, the fatigue, without letting it drive your decisions. And that's the real edge. Not pretending you're invincible, but training yourself to keep going even when you're not. People look at high performers and think they have some secret. They don't. They just have reps. They've trained themselves in the hard moments. They've practiced composure when everything screamed chaos. They've failed more times than most people have even tried, and they didn't let those failures shape their worth. Because they understood something simple: your ability to endure under pressure is directly connected to your ability to trust yourself under pressure. And that trust is built one moment at a time, by not folding. You want to become someone who others look to in chaos. Someone who doesn't lose their center when everything's going sideways. Then you have to train your mind before the storm hits. That means you put yourself in the fire on purpose. You challenge your limits. You put yourself in uncomfortable conversations, situations, environments, so when the real test comes, you don't panic. You've already been there. You've already handled worse. That's not arrogance. That's conditioning. When you stop folding under pressure, you stop doubting your ability to rise. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop needing validation. You don't need a perfect path laid out. You just move. You trust your preparation. You trust your principles. And when you hit resistance, and you will, you don't let it define the outcome. You absorb the hit, recalibrate, and get back in the game. Mental toughness isn't loud. It doesn't brag. It doesn't need attention. It just endures. Quietly, relentlessly. And every time you refuse to fold when it would have been easier to give in, you harden that edge. You stretch your capacity. And eventually, pressure stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like a trigger. A trigger for performance, for focus, for precision. That's how you become unshakable. Not by avoiding the fire, but by proving, over and over again, that it can't consume you. Most people spend their lives trying to control the outside. Other people, outcomes, opinions, circumstances. But here's the truth that flips everything when your mind works for you. Nothing outside of you can work against you. That's not a quote, it's a fact. When your inner world is aligned, focused, trained, and disciplined, the outer world loses its power to break you. It might shake you, it might delay you, but it won't stop you, because the real war was never out there, it was always in here. A trained mind knows how to hold the line. It knows how to quiet the noise, filter the chaos, and zero in on what matters. And once you reach that level, once you stop needing everything outside of you to be perfect before you move, you become dangerous. Because now, your power isn't conditional. It's not, I'm good as long as things go my way. It's, I'm good, period. I'm locked in, regardless. That's when you stop reacting to life and start commanding it. That's when life stops happening to you and starts happening through you. You want to know why some people stay grounded in crisis, while others unravel. It's not about strength you can see. It's about how they train their mind to respond. They've rehearsed pain. They've stared down rejection. They've failed publicly, privately, again and again, and instead of folding, they used every single one of those moments as data, as feedback, as fuel. So now, when they step into uncertainty, it doesn't scare them. It activates them. That kind of mindset doesn't come from wishing, hoping, or reading quotes on the internet. It comes from doing the work when no one's watching, from catching the thought that wants to shrink you and replacing it with one that expands you. From choosing discipline when your emotions beg for comfort. From showing up, broken or whole, ready or not, because your mind doesn't operate on feelings, it operates on commitment. When your mind is in alignment with your mission, you become immune to noise. People can doubt you. Let them. You've trained for that. People can reject you. That's fine, you already know your worth. Obstacles can show up, you expected them. You don't crumble under pressure because your identity isn't built on conditions. It's built on conviction, and that makes you unshakable. The world doesn't hand power to people who wait for permission. It hands it to those who walk in knowing exactly who they are and what they came to do. Because when your mind is sharp, your actions follow. Your energy follows, your presence becomes undeniable. And now you're not just participating, you're leading. You're not just surviving, you're creating. That's not arrogance. That's clarity. And clarity is what gives you the edge in a world full of noise. So while most people are out there, trying to manipulate everything around them, trying to make the path easier, the critics quieter, the risks smaller, you take the smarter route. You build the kind of mind that can handle any path, stand firm through any noise, and face down any risk. Because once you've trained your mind to work for you, the game changes. You stop being fragile. You stop overthinking. You stop needing everything to go right just to function. Now you walk into the room with certainty, not because it's guaranteed, but because you're grounded. Now you take the shot, not because it's safe, but because your mind is stable. Now you keep going, not because it's easy, but because you decided to. That's the kind of internal power no one can take from you. That's what makes you unstoppable. Not perfect conditions, not outside applause. Just a mind so dialed in, so locked on, that nothing external can override what you already know deep down. You were built for this. So now you know. This isn't about hype. This isn't about waiting for the perfect moment or hoping your circumstances magically align. This is about ownership, ruthless, disciplined ownership of your mind, your choices, and your direction. Because once you train your mind to work for you, not against you, you stop needing permission, you stop needing approval, and you stop making excuses. You start showing up with clarity, with intention, with unshakable focus. That's what makes you unstoppable. Not what happens to you, but how you think through it, how you respond to it, and how you lead yourself no matter what. The people who rise in this world aren't the ones with the easiest path. They're the ones with the strongest mindset, and that's something you can build. Right now, not someday, not when it's convenient, but in this moment, with this decision, to take control of the one thing no one can take from you, your mind. Train it like your life depends on it, because it does. And once you master that, there is nothing you can't handle, and no version of you can't become.